Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Israel Unplugged. This is Josh Wander from Yerushalayim, and I'm here with my co-host, Rabbi Moshe Lichtman from Beit Shemesh.
Shalom Aleichem. We have a special show today, pre-election show. We're going to talk about issues related to the upcoming election. Of course, we're not going to tell you who to vote for, but we are going to discuss issues.
Israel Unplugged is where you can get the unadulterated facts of where we're holding in the redemptive process, focusing primarily on the ingathering of the exiles. This show, we will have hopefully have a special guest, which is going to be Rabbi Pesach Lerner from the WZO. His party, for those that are not familiar, have basically, with the other Orthodox parties, managed to get the majority of the WZO votes, I believe. We're going to talk about that a little bit and what that means for American Jewry and what that means for Israel. And like Rabbi Lichtman mentioned, tomorrow is Election Day. Do not forget to vote. And we're going to discuss exactly what that means in the whole process that's going on now. Whether Trump wins, whether Biden wins, or someone else, doesn't matter. And if it does matter, so who should we be supporting? Who shouldn't we support? We're not endorsing anyone. Well, I should say we as a group or as a channel, I do not believe are endorsing anyone. I personally have my opinions, which I'm happy to share. But it's very, very interesting how this plays and has an effect on the Jews in America, and whether or not that's going to encourage them or discourage them, perhaps, in coming back home. So all of this we're going to be discussing. I do want to mention that this is all part of a program called Bring Them Home. You can visit our website at bringthemhome.org.il. Also, it's timetolive.com, and our other domain is called israeltorah.org. And all those lead us to a website which has lots of videos, audios, and blogs. We also want to encourage people to go to Rabbi Lichtman's site, which is Toratzion, TORATZION.com. And over there, you can look at all of Rabbi Lichtman's books that he's done an excellent job writing and translating, as well as his shurim and other things that he's working on. So we hope to hear you, or see you and hear from you right after the break.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Israel Unplugged. This is Josh Wander, and we have a special guest, Rabbi Pesach Lerner. Rabbi Pesach Lerner was formerly the head of the National Council of Young Israel, which was the coordinating body for over 150 Orthodox synagogues across the United States. And today he heads the party of the WZO called Eretz HaKodesh, the Eretz HaKodesh slate. They have done an amazing job. According to the March 11th headline in the Jerusalem Post, there is a shift in power in the WZO elections from progressive left to religious right, and a lot of that is owed to Rabbi Lerner. Thank you, and welcome for coming on, Rabbi Lerner.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's get right into it. My first question, which has really always been an issue with me, and I've always thought about when I think of the WZO, they passed this amazing program, which they call the Jerusalem program. It has 6 different talking points that everyone that joins the WZO has to sign off on. And number 2 and number 6 are the ones that I want to speak directly about. And number 2 is Aliyah to Israel from all countries. and the effective integration of all immigrants into Israeli society. And number 6 is settling the country as an expression of practical Zionism. Both of these we wholeheartedly agree with. I'm just wondering how a Jew in America signs such a thing, and what do they think? What do you think when you sign such a declaration?
Are you asking me? Are you asking the liberal left?
I'm asking whoever you'd like to answer, whoever you're speaking for.
I think it's important. I don't think anybody disagrees. Unfortunately, some people feel that they can't make the aliyah at the moment for numerous reasons, but I would think that every good Jew understands that that's a dream, a goal that we should all have.
So you mentioned you hit it on the nail. There are groups within the WZO, whether they be the liberal left or whether they be even the Haredi right, that I would think would have some issues with some of the points in this program.
Yeah. I think if the liberal left can sign it, then the Haredi right can sign it. The liberal left took the opportunity to interpret the land of Israel by them means Tel Aviv. Obviously, the land of Israel by my people means Greater Israel, Yehuda v'Shamron, Yerushalayim, everything else. The liberal left took a lot of liberties. Atikva even said this is not something we would sign. It's just affirmation of what the WZO holds. So I don't think that's, everybody reads every word differently, and hopefully they signed it with all honesty. I know that our people did.
So some people are referring to what happened in this past election as a hostile takeover of the WZO. What is your response to that?
Well, first of all, they were calling it a hostile Haredi takeover. Let's give credit where credit is due. The bottom line is that the Eretz HaKodesh party, which came from nowhere to almost second place, in total we had 25 delegates out of 525. In my math, that's about 5%. They were blaming the takeover to 5%. The truth is that with the 25 delegates of Eretz HaKodesh, and combining them with the Likud and Mizrahi and Shas and a few others, it did come out that for the first time in the history of the system, there was a majority right-wing Orthodox Haredi group. And as you know, democracy only works when you win. If you don't win, it's unfair. And in this case, the coalition that was put together by the right had the votes. And then history changes. From every time, if you didn't have the votes, you didn't get the good spots. I've said I don't remember a yarmulke, a religious person heading Karen Kakao or the Jewish Agency or Karen Yesod, and now you have a religious person in charge of Kakao and you have a religious person in charge of the WZO. So it's historic, and hopefully we and others will be able to shift the attitudes and the funding and whatever you want to call it back to the center. It's been left for too many years. It's been, as you started your conversation, Josh, Greater Israel, Yehuda v'Shamron, the liberal parties ran on the platform of stopping any monies over the quote-unquote green line. And besides our attitude of putting in some Judaism, Yiddishkeit, Torah into the system, or more than was, Baruch Hashem, we hope that makes sure that the funds flow to all of Israel. I mean, our groups were for President Trump moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim. They were for the Golan, the Yehuda v'Shamron, everything that the president is doing now, we are for. Unfortunately, the reform movement were the first ones to come out against moving the embassy to Yerushalayim. It isn't the right time. They were against the Golan situation. They were against Yehuda v'Shamron. They were against everything that I think most Israelis are for. And I think that we're trying to bring back the attitudes and policies and philosophies of these national Israel organizations back into sync with the majority of active Jews. I say the majority of active Jews, and one more point. There were 120,000, give or take, votes in this election, double last year, and we take credit for that. We kind of activated everybody. The bottom line is, if you take the amount of votes that the Reform movement got and the Conservative movement got, they barely got 3% of their membership. That means 90% of the membership of Reform and 90% of membership of Conservative did not vote. Now you can figure out what you want. With all the money and time and effort they put into it, 97 didn't vote. Either they don't care for the emphasis of the Reform on religious pluralism, they don't really care about the kotel they don't visit, or the rules of marriage and conversion they have no intention of participating in. But the bottom line is, I'm afraid that a lot of it is that they're not interested in Israel. Too many of the liberal movements, the children and grandchildren, they vacation everywhere else but Israel. They don't concern about Israel. Israel is not on their agenda, and that's unfortunate. But the bottom line is, it does show that if you take a look at the numbers, 50% or more of the votes coming into the American Zionist movement of the WZO came from the religious and right. So if anybody asks you, who are the active Jews? Who are the Jews of the future? Who are the Jews that care about Israel? The answer is the religious and the political right. So when Knesset has to worry about, well, the Jews of America, well, we are the Jews of America. We are the Jews of America that talk the talk, just don't walk, and walk the walk. Okay, we're the ones who send our children to learn in Israel. We are the ones that buy apartments in Israel. We are the ones that invest in Israel. We are the ones that vacation in Israel. And that message was sent very clearly by the results of the World Zionist Congress on the American scene.
So the WZO is involved in appointing the leadership of Keren HaYesod, Keren Kayemet LiYisrael, the Jewish National Fund, the Jewish Agency. What is the plan in order to change the agendas to make them more Zionist, to make them more Jewish, and if I can borrow an expression from the Trump campaign, to drain the swamp?
Well, we're hoping at the moment you have a religious person at the head of the WZO, Yaakov Rogoel. You have a religious person in charge of Kakao, Aram Dudovani. I don't think they've decided yet on who's in charge of Keren Yesod. There's still a fight going on. Prime Minister has a piece in that. And you have Isaac Herzog, who's now currently in charge of the Jewish Agency. He has another year or two. And there'll be the Education Committee or Department at the Keren Kakao, Eretz HaKodesh has for the next 2.5 years. The Education Department at WZO is now under Mizrahi, Gael Grunwald, good guy. So we're hoping to be able to use our influence to do good things for the Jewish people. Good things means more pro-Israel, the way you and I understand it, Josh, and more pro-Jewish values. And it's going to take time, and we have a lot of research to do to see what's going on, but hopefully there will be more people voting and more committees involved and more activity. We've decided
how do you get everybody involved? The majority of the United States is Reform. They're not Orthodox.
Wait. Hold on. Stop right there, please. Okay. Unfortunately, 70% of American Jewry are not connected at all.
Right, not affiliated at all. Correct.
Not affiliated at all. We got to start with the right math. 65-70% of American Jewry are not affiliated. You want to give the Reform 12, 13, 14, 15%. You want to give Conservative 10, 11%. You got to give Orthodox 10, 11%. And somewhere along the line, Chabad is all over the place. That more people are going to Chabad on a Shabbos morning than Reform and Conservative.
My question is the same. How do you reach all these people, whether they're unaffiliated, whether they're Reform? How does the Orthodox leadership of the WZO now reach out to these people?
I can't answer that. That's a very important but difficult question. How do you reach out to 65-70% of American Jewry that are not affiliated, intermarried, don't count, don't consider themselves Jewish. That's a very difficult question, and it's a very difficult problem. We're losing Jews left and right. I have called to the Reform movement and said, you didn't get 98% of your people. Take your efforts and your money and go make sure that your grandchildren will want to vote in the next WZO election.
Rabbi Lerner, we have a hard break coming up. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. We wish you much hatzlacha and success in everything you're doing.
Thank you.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Israel Unplugged. This is your co-host, Rabbi Moshe Lichtman. As, of course, you all know, tomorrow is a very important day in American history and could be in Jewish history also. It will have a tremendous impact on the future of the state of Israel, the Jewish people, certainly the American people. We, of course, here are not here to tell anybody how to vote, but there was something that I wanted to share with you that I just recently remembered, that from 5 years ago, March 30th, 2015, there was an article on Arutz Sheva. Yeah, that's the host of our program, Israel News Talk Radio. There was an article, and I like collecting articles that are related, of course, to Aliyah, and this article absolutely blew me away. The title is Biden, who of course was the vice president at the time. American Jews can only rely on Israel, not the United States. And here, listen very closely, is the article. An incredible admission by U.S. Vice President Joe Biden has been revealed, in which he told Jewish leaders that should the American Jewish community be in danger, it has only Israel to rely on and not America. Where did this come from? Journalist Jeffrey Goldberg reveals in the April issue of The Atlantic how at a Rosh Hashanah event in Biden's home last fall, the vice president told Jewish leaders and Jewish officials in U.S. President Barack Obama's administration how he met former Prime Minister Golda Meir when he was a young senator. I'll never forget talking to her in her office with her assistant, a guy named Yitzhak Rabin, about the Six-Day War, he recalled. The end of the meeting, we got up and walked out. The doors are open and the press is taking photos. She looked straight ahead and said, "Senator, don't look so sad. Don't worry. We Jews have a secret weapon." Biden states that he asked Golda Meir what the weapon was, noting, "I thought she was going to tell me something about a nuclear program, etc., etc." But according to Biden, she looked straight ahead and she said, "We have no place else to go. That's our secret weapon. We have no place else to go." Addressing his guests at Rosh Hashanah, Biden paused for effect and repeated, "We have no place else to go." Folks, there is no place else to go. And you understand that in your bones. Don't forget, Biden is talking to the Jews that are part of the administration of that time, of Barack Obama's government. And he says to them, you have nowhere else to go. And you understand that in your bones. You understand in your bones that no matter how hospitable, no matter how consequential, no matter how engaged, no matter how deeply involved you are in the United States, there's only one guarantee. There is really only one absolute guarantee, and that is the state of Israel, he stated. So the article goes on a little bit about, reaction to this. How could it be that a sitting vice president can tell a portion of the American citizenry that they cannot really count on the United States government to guarantee their freedom and safety? But wow, does this have import for tomorrow's elections? That's exactly what we've been trying to talk about, Josh, you and I, on this program, about how things are really heating up in America, and it's getting less and less comfortable for Jews to stay there. And who knows what's going to be after tomorrow? And we've said this many times before, no matter who wins, it is very unclear that the American soil is going to be ripe for the Jewish people to continue living on. And here you have Biden himself saying the only place Jews can really rely on is the state of Israel. What do you have to say about that,
Well,
Josh?
first of all, we have a caller from the American soil. His name is Alan, and he has a question for us.
Right.
Could you connect me again?
You're connected. We hear you.
Oh, okay. Hello. I want to talk about Trump and he being fit or unfit for office. And at the end, I had a question from you. Personally, I think Trump is unfit for office and he's ruining America from inside out.
Okay, we just need the question, Alan. We don't have time for a whole speech. Alan, just give us the question. Alan, are you there?
I didn't hear your question clear.
We just want to know what your question is.
Okay. I wanted to say that he's a politician. He's not a leader. And besides that,
Alan, what's the question, Alan?
Handling of coronavirus.
Alan, what's the question?
My question is this.
Okay, bye, Alan.
Trump is fit for office.
You can disconnect Alan. Okay, we didn't need a speech. We were just waiting for a question, but he had a speech to tell, so we'll continue on with it.
Right, also wasn't really relevant to our program. Okay, so Josh, what do you say? Have you heard that? Have you seen that article before?
I have not, but it sounds absolutely incredible. The fact that we have no place to go is absolutely right. That, again, we've spoken before about this. The reasons one should choose to come to Eretz Israel should be for positive reasons. There are definitely so many reasons why we should move here. And to say that we have no other place, there was a famous song, I'm sure you heard, Ein li Eretz Acheret, and that song always bothered me. Ein li Eretz Acheret. The reason that I'm living here in Eretz Israel is because Ein li Eretz Acheret, I don't have any other place to go. If I had a passport to the Netherlands, or if I could go to Switzerland, I would be on the next plane out. But I don't have any other place to go, so I'm stuck over here. I think that gives the wrong message.
Yes, I agree, but in the long run, we really do not have any other land. Not because we would love to be other places, but because God only chose one place for the Jewish people. This is where we belong, and this is where we can flourish the most. Where we can reach our highest potential. So, I want to be, how would you say it in English? I don't know, but Dan lekaf zchut, that the one who wrote that song meant, Ein li Eretz Acheret, meaning this is our land. This is the land that belongs to us. This is where we belong. I have no other land. But, we do know that throughout history, even though we had other lands, we did live in other places, it never ended up being good for the Jewish people. It always ended in tragedy. And of course, we've said many times, we hope that's not what's going to happen here, but it is certainly something that we have to be aware of and be able to read the signs when they start coming up and leave in enough time and not be stuck again in another terrible situation of persecution.
Often I'm accused of fear-mongering, and I'm telling people how terrible things are going to get. There's another Holocaust on the way. We need to have a kinder transport. I've said many radical things in my past, and I stand by all of them because I think that we never really know. We hope and we pray that a destruction will never come to the Jewish people again. But we also, those that are students of history, know that it has happened over and over again in every country that the Jews have been in. In almost every country throughout history that the Jews have spent a significant amount of time in, they have been persecuted and they have been thrown out of that land. And the United States is quite different in many ways, at least it's been until now, and it's been very welcoming, and we appreciate that very much. You wanted to mention the song. We appreciate it, but we don't love it. Yeah.
Right. There was this song that someone sent me on a WhatsApp by Yaakov Shweki, one of my favorite singers. It's basically the tune of one of his famous songs, but he changed the words for Trump, and which is fine. He's campaigning for Donald Trump. God, please give us another 4 years of Donald Trump. That's what he says in his song. But he also in that song says, "We love America." Now, I think that is a very problematic thing for a Jew, a religious Jew, to say that we love America. We appreciate America. We appreciate and thank God that we had America when we needed it, but that we love America. We love only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We love only God, right? We love only the land that God gave us. That's the only place where we should love. So I had a big problem with that song when I heard it this morning, and it's all the same. It's the same idea. It's the same problem that we keep on bringing up, that Jews in America are missing it. They're missing the point, I think.
I'll take it a step further. Not only do we appreciate America, but I will say that we have to be loyal to America. Those that live in America, as in any country in the world, we have an obligation to follow their laws and be loyal to the country. And it's always been said of Jews wherever they are that they have a dual loyalty to another country. And I reject that, because I think that American Jews really are supposed to be loyal to the country that they're in. I don't think that they're supposed to stay permanently in that country, but as long as they are there, they have to not only appreciate and respect it, but they also have to be loyal to it. But love is definitely a very strong term. And definitely having love for other countries besides the one that God has given you is definitely questionable and problematic.
Yes, maybe I'll end off this segment with a nice idea that I like saying on Thanksgiving. For many years, I taught in yeshivot, and we would have, the American yeshivot here in Israel like having a Thanksgiving dinner for their guys. Give them a little treat, a nice turkey, etc. And there's always talk about how thankful we are for America, and I always gave the following mashal, the following parable. If someone gives you $1 million and you say thank you for the $1,000, that's actually an insult, because he gave you more than that. So when God gave us America, of course we have to say thank you. But he's given us something so much greater. He gave us our own land back. In 1948, he gave us Medinat Yisrael. So how could we still be thanking him for the lesser of the two gifts that he gave us? All right, we'll be back in a few minutes.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Israel Unplugged. This is the last segment, and I wanted to start it off by reading something that a friend of mine, Donnie Cohen, sent this morning, and I was deeply moved by this thing that he wrote, and I'd like to read it over to you. It's called Feeling Incomplete. I really don't care who you vote for tomorrow. This won't be as long or as polished as other posts I've written, but there's no reason for it to be. It's coming from the heart. It should be raw, unedited, as we say here in Israel, dugri. I want you here. I really do. Really, really do. I miss you a lot. I don't care if you're a diehard leftist, a proud right-winger, or somewhere in between. I want you here. I don't care if you're irreligious, ultra-religious, traditional, conservative, orthodox, reform, reconstructionist, conservadox, or whatever else I left out. I want you here. I don't care how you look, where you come from, what your background is, what you affiliate yourself with, what your plans are in life, or anything else. I really do want you here. I'm not trying to act like a snob. I'm not trying to belittle challenges. I'm not trying to tell you what to do or convince you to make decisions I myself didn't even make. I'm simply saying, I want you here. Think what you think. Do what you do. Listen what you want to listen to. I want you here. The land I'm standing on right now wants you here too. Maybe not every single one of them, but the overwhelming majority of the land's citizens want you here as well. They may not share this. They may not write something similar. They may not express their feelings, comment, take action, or even like this, or my choice of words. They may not be tactful. They may not make it easy for you. They may act very rough, and they may not always show it. But deep down, really deep down, they want you here too. Jewish history wants you here. The prophecies, the repetitive process of being kicked out from land to land, country to country, the final destination on our tour of the nations, Jewish history wants you here. Since leaving, we've never had it better in any other land than in America. Nothing is even slightly comparable to what opportunities we've been given, what vast networks we've built, what we've accomplished, how far we've come. And yet, I still want you here. It isn't just me, though. In just a few years, the majority of us worldwide who have either made their way back by force or make their way back, they want you here too. I don't care who you are. You're my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my aunt, my uncle, my grandfather, or my grandmother. And let's be honest, if not that, we're at least cousins. I should be writing this every day, but instead I'm writing it today, before tomorrow comes, and with it, everything else. On a day in which a responsible citizens of the country you currently reside in, you consider how you want your future to look, I ask you, please, to not only consider that future. Please consider your future as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a part of our nation, where we have come from, and yes, where we are right now, but even more importantly, where our future, where your future as part of our nation leads you and us. We are all a link in the chain. Our link has been blessed with excellent conditions. Little rust, not much sign of wear and tear. We look all the way back to the past links in the chain, eaten up, dirty, almost rusted all the way through. We look back past all those links and see where our chain's point of inception was. It's clear to us that our part of the chain, whenever it may end, through all it has gone through, is now in the final bend towards circling back around to our original inception point. I want you here. I'm not saying the A word. I won't, because I don't care how you get here or what you do or don't do once you arrive. I simply want you here. I want you to come and stay and never leave, like a mother embracing her fatigued son who's returned from a long, complex, debilitating war, seemingly to have lasted for generations upon generations. Of course, I don't care who you vote for tomorrow. I want you here. We want you here. And as so many of you have told me during this crazy time, you want to be here. Please, as soon as you can, get here. I'm waiting here with open arms, looking forward to your arrival, and no matter whether it's socially distanced, long in the future, or tomorrow morning, I just want you here, and I'm waiting here earnestly to feel your embrace. Just like the land upon which I stand, I promise, it promises to never let go. So I cried the first time I read that. But I think it says it very well that regardless of what happens tomorrow, the bottom line is the Jewish people need to want to return home.
Yes, no doubt about it. Who exactly is this person who wrote this article?
Donnie Cohen. He's a very special person that's been involved in the army here, and he's involved in Shlichut, and we wish him well. But tell us something about the parsha.
Yeah, well, one second, but because he wrote that he didn't make Aliyah. I mean, he's born Israeli.
No. He did make it. He said that he wouldn't be asking something that he didn't do. He made Aliyah. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get that. Okay, very nice, very nice. Yes, we hope that his words fall on receptive ears.
Resonate, yes.
Yes, 100%. So we'll maybe end today with a nice little idea, not from this week's Parsha, even though there is a lot to talk about in this week's Parsha. But the topic that we discussed throughout today was this idea of, this is where we belong. The Jewish people belong here, and this is really where the Jewish people's loyalty lies. And, we talked about the song, Shweki's song, We Love America, and how problematic that is. So it reminded me of an idea that I wrote on Parshat Korach, of all Parshiot, Korach. Right? So we know that besides Korach, there were also these two other characters named Datan and Aviram, who were real bad guys. And it says at one point that they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, we're not going to go up. We're not going to listen to you, Moshe, right? Is it a small thing that you have brought us up from a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the desert? That you make yourself a prince over us, etc., etc. So it says after that Moshe became very vayichar. He became very, seemingly, it means angry. But Rashi says a very strange thing. He says, no, here vayichar doesn't mean Moshe was angry. It means he was distressed. He was very upset about what Datan and Aviram had said to him. But, and assumedly, the reason that Rashi says that is because we don't want to attribute anger, or something like, feelings of anger to someone as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. So we say he was distressed. But the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, says, no, that's not true. Vayichar means actually he got angry. Moshe didn't get angry because of his own personal affront, but he got angry because of the affront to God and to God's special land. I don't know how many times. I think I actually have a book in my library. If I'm not mistaken, it says it numerous times. If I'm not mistaken, it's 86, but I could be wrong about that number, where the Torah refers to the land of Israel as an Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, a land flowing with milk and honey. And here you have Datan and Aviram, these terrible wicked people, saying, you took us out of a land flowing with milk and honey, meaning Egypt. To use a phrase that God uses to praise the land of Israel and use it for a different land is something that was so terrible that Moshe Rabbeinu got angry. Yes, he actually got angry at that. And this is an idea that we see, unfortunately, to this very day. We see that there are Jews who praise the lands in which they live, even though they're not the land of Israel. Now, that doesn't mean God doesn't expect you to be, I don't know what, to be, oblivious to the beauty of nature, and, to ignore the fact that a place is nice and you can get pleasure from it. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with it is emphasizing it and giving it something more than it really is, and not using those praises for the land of Israel. I give you the following mashal, the following way to understand this. It says in the beginning of Eicha that Yerushalayim was ke'almana, was like an almana, like a widow. And the Talmud says that it wasn't an actual widow, it was only like a widow, meaning like a woman whose husband went away and he's still alive. So she's not actually a widow. She is just living like a widow, but she looks forward to her husband coming back. So just think about the scenario. Think about a scenario the other way around. Let's say a man's wife got lost somehow, but she's still alive, and he knows she's still alive, and he looks forward to seeing her. Is he going to start praising other women and saying how much he loves them? That would be an affront to his real true love, i.e. his wife. And that's the case here. Our true love should only be Eretz Yisrael. It should only be the land of Israel. And other lands, we should never, ever use the words, I love another land, because that means that you're saying you love something, like the land of Israel. I see our time is run out, so we're going to have to stop here. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining us, and go out and vote tomorrow.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.